Hello everyone, and thank you for watching the Movie Nights YouTube channel. Anyone who knows me knows that every year, at the beginning of the year, I do a list. I make a big video of my favorite movies of the previous year. Usually I do this at the beginning of January, but now I'm doing it at the end of January because back then, I had time. Now, I just have problems. Something that should be pointed out is that hundreds of movies were released last year, and I only saw 75 of them. So naturally there will be movies missing from the list. It's probably because I didn't think they were in my top favorites, or I just never saw them. And something I want to point out, all of film is subjective, so your list probably looks way different from mine. And that's totally okay. My opinion is no more valid or invalid than yours, so everyone should make their favorite movies list and share it with everybody, because I just love talking about movies. Now, most people like to do a top 10 list, but I don't really roll that way because I love movies and there are so many that I'd like to talk about. So we're going to talk about a third of the movies I saw. We're going to do top 25 films this year. Here are some quick honorable mentions. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Crawl, The Kid Who Would Be King, Cold Pursuit, and The Lighthouse. These are all movies that I really liked but didn't quite make the list. So without further ado, let's jump right in to number 25. Oh, one more thing. I like to put video clips of the movies right after I say them, but last time I got copyright striked and the movie was deleted by YouTube. So no clips this time, but there will be posters. Here we go. Uncut Gems is number 25, which is an awesome film crafted by the Safdie brothers starring Adam Sandler, and who gives a phenomenal performance. I actually feel he was snubbed at the Academy Awards this year. This film is an anxiety-inducing, just roller coaster of a film. You hate every decision the character makes, but you actually hope that he makes it out okay, and that is not an easy thing to do when you write characters, so props to the Safdie brothers and Uncut Gems. Hustlers. This movie surprised the hell out of me, because when I saw the advertisements, I was like, stripper movie starring J-Lo. I don't know about that. But then I watched the movie, and not only was the movie great, but J-Lo killed it. It was directed and written very well, and it was shot beautifully, which was not something I expected out of a film like this, so Hustlers really won me over. Long Shot. This was probably my favorite comedy that came out this year, well, second favorite, as you'll see later. Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen have this chemistry that shouldn't work, but it works very well. A lot of the movie's jokes are extremely well written, and just overall, you really bought these characters and you wanted to see them succeed. And the movie tried to be a good movie first before being funny, and not many comedies do that anymore. Knives Out, the modern tale of a whodunit directed and written by Rian Johnson. The entire ensemble cast was great, the script was really tight, the direction was amazing. Half the jokes worked, half them didn't, but overall the movie had me guessing and guessing and guessing, and like a classic whodunit, the epic speech and awesome reveal by Daniel Craig, who was phenomenal in the movie, just put a huge smile on my face. So Knives Out also gets a spot on this list. Shazam is a movie that really was near and dear to my heart. Not only do I obviously love comic books and comic book movies, this film was just so lovely. Zachary Levi killed it as the sudden adult of Billy Batson in Shazam. David F. Sandberg did an excellent job helming this movie. They're going to make a sequel, which I'm very excited about. And this movie just had such a heartwarming message and such a great dynamic between Shazam and the other siblings, and it just really put a smile on your face and had a bunch of kick-ass action and even some horror elements. Really like Shazam. Coming in next on my list was Olivia Wilde's Booksmart. This film was incredibly funny, and the two leads did a phenomenal job bantering off of one another in almost a alternative version of Superbad. Not only was this film very funny, but it had a genuine emotion and heart to it. There's a scene in the film that takes place at a party. It's actually one of my favorite movie scenes of the entire year. This film was a gloriously fun ride, and I cannot wait to see what Olivia Wilde does next. Fighting with My Family. Talk about surprises. This movie really came out of nowhere for me. I used to be a big WWE fan, but I haven't really watched it in a really long time religiously. And this movie just kind of goes to show that when you have the right characters and the right story, with them being the real story of Paige, you can really make a great movie out of it. And Stephen Merchant, as a director, did a wonderful job. This movie not even told the story of Paige, but also just the thematic stories of what it's like to be in a family that has one goal and one purpose. and what happens when one sibling achieves that goal and the other one doesn't. There was a great dynamic between Paige and her brother in this film, and this is the first movie I've seen Stephen Merchant direct, Really excited to see what else he does. And yeah, Fighting with My Family, fantastic movie. Next on my list is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Again, Tarantino, phenomenal filmmaker, and in this film, he really just makes a love letter to movies, you know, the art form that he loves and cares about so much. You have amazing performances by Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, you have all of the glorious 1970s Hollywood, and you have Sharon Tate in there, played by Margot Robbie. I won't spoil exactly what happens, but Tarantino does do that thing where he changes history, and I gotta say, the last 30 minutes of this movie had possibly a bigger audience reaction than watching Avengers Endgame. My theater was going nuts, clapping, cheering, and at an original movie, which is not something you see very often. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood takes this spot on my list. Coming in next is The Farewell, the movie directed by Lulu Wang. This is a movie that I'm very surprised the Academy overlooked, especially those of you who watch the podcast know how disappointed I was. This film really asks American audiences to ask themselves the question of something that's common practice in a different culture. And you really have to ask yourself, is lying to a loved one about their future fate protecting them, or is this something wrong that we shouldn't be doing? And right after the movie is over, you kind of ask yourself the question, what would I have done in that scenario? And The Farewell is also shot beautifully, directed beautifully, and Awkwafina gives a fantastic performance. The Farewell was a movie that went overlooked by many. If you haven't watched The Farewell, I highly encourage you to do so. Next is going to be Toy Story 4. This is a movie that not many people thought should even exist. They thought 3 kind of wrapped it up okay, and this seemed just sort of like to be a money grab by Disney. But when I watched the movie, you kind of realize, no, they still had more story to tell. Because this is a movie that easily just could have been about nothing and audiences would have gone to see it. They decided to really take the character of Woody and focus on the idea of purpose. You know, what is your purpose when the one thing you wanted to do is now complete? The movie's really entertaining for kids, it's really thought-provoking for the adults, it's really heartfelt and emotional, and again, just this franchise kills it. And Toy Story 4, incredible movie. Yes, next is John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. I love this franchise. It's so awesome, not only because it has a simplistic but primal story, just a revenge plot, especially when puppies are involved, but also the action choreography and the time and dedication to how those sequences are not only choreographed but shot as well is unparalleled in American movies today. John Wick 3 displays incredible action that probably won't be topped for until the next one comes out. But John Wick 3 was an incredibly fun time, incredibly action-packed, thrilling, exciting, and Halle Berry and the dogs were amazing. So if you have not gotten into this franchise yet, I recommend you do so, and especially check out this 3rd chapter. Coming in next is Spider-Man Far From Home. This is the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming and just a continuation in the MCU following right after Avengers Endgame. While I did expect this film to be good, I didn't expect the film to be quite as good as it was. Tom Holland again kills it as the Spider-Man character. Jake Gyllenhaal does an excellent job playing Mysterio. You know, this film really, when you follow up Endgame, you really have to do a good job of not only distinguishing yourself from that movie, but also giving the audiences a nice little epilogue and give a little brief taste as to what's coming next. And this film did that spectacularly, as well as have a lot of surprises and heartfelt moments. So, 2 thumbs up for Spider-Man Far From Home. Coming in next is the awesome war epic 1917, directed by Sam Mendes. This movie is shot and edited to make it look like it's one continuous take, much like Birdman a few years ago. On a technical level, this film was damn near perfect. Use of the one shot, or at least making it look like it's all one shot, really worked well. For the most part, the cuts are seamless, the visual effects, the sound editing especially, incredible, and the performances were felt real and genuine. Sam Mendes found a way to tell a dramatic story in the world of World War I. And it was very awesome to see how they pulled that off. And Roger Deakins is just the best in the business, come on. Coming in next is Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. This was kind of his return to the gangster genre after Goodfellas and Casino, and this film was really just about age. And when you reach a certain age, what is your purpose after you've lived this entire life doing one thing? And it's really a self-reflective movie for Scorsese. You can see a lot of him asking himself questions throughout the film, the way it's shot, the way it's written. The main performances by Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Joe Pesci were all phenomenally excellent. The film is about 45 minutes too long, but regardless, it is shot beautifully, it's acted wonderfully, and it is Martin Scorsese back in that crime world, which is something that film fans have been craving for a while, and it did pay off quite nicely. Coming in next is Greta Gerwig's Little Women. This film was based off of the famous story, famous novel, and I've never read the story or the novel, but I absolutely adore this film. Greta Gerwig really showed and flexed her talent muscles with Lady Bird, and she even kills it, I think, even better with this film. The performances are all great. Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, especially Florence Pugh, all amazing work. Even Laura Dern was really fantastic. Greta Gerwig continues to show what an amazing talent she is to this industry, and just Little Women was such an emotionally pleasing ride in the natural storytelling that it presented itself with. And I later found out, which scenes were from the book and which scenes that Greta Gerwig just came up with and how it was adapted. It's really fascinating, and the adapted screenplay nomination she got is very much so deserved. Alright guys, we've entered the top 10. Let's see what we got. Coming in at number 10 is Rocketman, starring Taron Egerton, directed by Dexter Fletcher. I really, really loved how this film was made. I love that you get Elton John's music told as part of the story as it goes along, like a true classic musical. I thought Taron Egerton did a wonderful job. I thought the script and direction were also magnificent. The supporting performances were also wonderful, and just the film was kind of cinematic musical magic. Coming in at number 9 is Ford v Ferrari, starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale, and it's about the true story of the Le Mans '66 race, and what a phenomenal thrill ride. Especially the editing of this film was really, really phenomenally well done. James Mangold directed this film, who also directed films like Walk the Line and Logan. This movie was just an action-packed thriller, but without physical combat action, just racing. And if you're one of those people who's like, oh, racing and cars aren't really my thing, still go watch this movie. It has rich character development, it has a wonderfully told story, it's shot beautifully, and every single performance in the film will resonate with you on an emotional level. Ford v Ferrari was a really great film. Coming in at number 8 was a movie that I absolutely love that not enough people saw, and that movie is called Ready or Not, and it stars Samara Weaving. Fantastic horror comedy movie. Horror comedies are very difficult. You have to be able to balance the horror and also the comedy without one intersecting or lessening the effect of the other. And this movie does it beautifully. It's bonkers, it's wild, it's hilarious, it's scary, it's everything. Please, if you have not seen Ready or Not, rent it or find a way. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. Ready or Not is such a wonderful horror and comedy film with a commanding performance by Samara Weaving. Please, please go and watch Ready or Not. Coming in at number 7 was Jordan Peele's Us. Coming right off the heels of Get Out, he followed up with another phenomenal horror movie with a career-defining performance by Lupita Nyong'o, and it is bullshit she did not get an Oscar nomination. This film asks very deep thematic questions while also being scary as hell, and it continuously shows what a true talent Jordan Peele is behind the camera, and I cannot wait for whatever movie he does next. Coming in at number 6 is Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining, directed by Mike Flanagan. This movie didn't do that well at the box office, which is very sad to see because it is, wow, what a movie. It's psychologically terrifying, it asks very deep thematic questions, it has a beautiful performance by Ewan McGregor, and an even better performance by the young girl in the film. Mike Flanagan directs the shit out of this movie, from everything to the constant heartbeat that you hear throughout the film that's really ominous and tone-setting. Rebecca Ferguson as the villain was absolutely wonderful and terrifying all at the same time. And when you get to the climactic third act with the legendary sets from The Shining, you're already bought into this movie and it just takes it to a whole nother level. So I loved Dr. Sleep, and not enough of you saw it. So please, watch The Shining because it's a classic, and then follow it up with Dr. Sleep. Coming in at number 5 is Avengers Endgame. Now, this film was just the pinnacle of what blockbuster cinema can be. It was the culmination of the entire MCU from Iron Man 1 in 2008 until now. It did it with such amazing and dramatic fashion. It was emotionally resonant. The action scenes were incredible. It had amazing spectacle, and it is already in the pop cultural zeitgeist as one of just the all-time blockbuster, big, banging movies ever. So number 5 goes to Avengers Endgame. Number 4 goes to Noah Baumbach's Marriage Story. I really, really loved this film. I thought the script was absolutely phenomenal. It's probably one of my favorite screenplays of the year. I thought that both Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver's performances were so real, it was almost disturbing. I love that these characters, you didn't really love or hate one of them. Both were flawed, both had things that were good about them, and you just hated watching this whole process go out. Basically, the theme of the movie is lawyers suck. And just seeing this play out in such a horrific and dramatic fashion for the both of them was heartbreaking to see, and it was sort of just a sad reflection of the world we live in. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. For the top 3, you could literally take them and move them around from 1 to 3 to 2 to 1 to 3 to 2 to 2 to 1 to 3, and like I think about all these movies the same. So getting these top 3 in an order was the hardest thing to do for me. I could literally pull them out of a hat as 1, 2, and 3, and I would still feel the same way as to where they're listed. So here are my top 3 favorite movies, but I kind of feel the same about all of them, so here we go. Number 3 is Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. This film completely blew me away. It was not something that I was ready for, but I heard tons of positive word of mouth about it, went to see it, and oh my gosh, it starts off as a comedy, turns into kind of a horror film seamlessly. The ensemble performance of the entire cast is incredible, the production design is amazing, the cinematography is perfect. Everything about this movie was wonderful, and if you're one of the people who overlooked Parasite, I highly, highly recommend that you please, please seek out and watch this movie. It was such a cinematic experience. Coming in at number 2 is the Todd Phillips-directed, Joaquin Phoenix starring Joker. I thought this movie really held up a mirror to society and kind of let us see that we are the types of people that create evil like this in the world, while using a famous comic book character to get its main theme across. And there's also a love letter to old Martin Scorsese films like Taxi Driver, and it really, really just showed the height and level and pinnacle of what comic book filmmaking can be. It's really amazing that they decided to make a great story first and use this Joker character to bring the audience in to see the story they were trying to tell. I thought that was a brilliantly smart move, and I think that Joaquin Phoenix kills it as not just Arthur Fleck, this unfortunately mentally unstable person, the amazing comic book villain that everybody knows. And this film, the cinematography was perfect, the score, oh my god. Just pretty much everything about this movie was exceptionally well done. Joker gets my number 2 spot. Number one, what's it gonna be? Number 1 goes to Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit. This film emotionally moved me on so many levels, mostly because it is a comedy, it is a drama, it is a satire, it is a war film. It is everything, and it seamlessly goes through each thing. Taika Waititi makes it look easy. Having a movie that hits comedy, drama, World War II, really deep stuff, all in the span of 2 hours, is not an easy thing to pull off. And Taika Waititi is able to direct the hell out of this movie. The screenplay is wonderful. Scarlett Johansson's performance is incredible. The kids are amazing. One of the themes of this film is just love beats hate, and you have to just teach people what love is. And it really just holds up a different look on hate in a satirical kind of way. Bringing the comedic aspect into this movie just really sheds a different light on hate and how it can be defeated. And that's why I think this movie is so excellent, so important. Taika Waititi proves that he's here to stay. I love all the films of his that I've seen, and Jojo Rabbit takes my number 1 spot this year. But what's your guys' list look like? Don't be afraid to drop it in the comments below and let me know what you thought of my list. Well, that's going to do it for me and my top 25 favorite films of 2019. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.